morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. Good evening, wherever in the world you are. To live in fear is to not live at all. Got it? To live in fear is to not live at all. Most of us are completely aware that at some point in this life, our life will end. We are going to be dead. We will be deceased. We will no longer be here in the physical form. Most of us are aware of this. And some of us are so conscious of it that we use it to be in fear. We use it to keep this thing called fear inside. So we do things to stay extra safe, or we stay extra comfortable, or we do things to not really go outside of our limits in which life is trying to push us. Life is trying to push you to go beyond your limits. That's why you have fears. Notice that everything great is on the other side of fear. Everything great. Notice how exhilarating you feel like after you've done something that was completely fearful for you in the first place, like skydive. When you come down, you feel like incredible, right? But if you live in fear, you stay trapped. You're like in your own little prison cell. You stay held up. You stay bundled up. Like in a cloak, like a cloak. Something that keeps you protected. When in reality, there's only so much protection you can get. Other than that, at some point, life is going to stop for you. It's going to stop. But what that shouldn't do is stop you from living. But it does, because most of us dwell on the mortality part. We take our own mortality and we think that at some point we're going to die. So we need to live, but live constricted. We can do this, but we can't do that because that's doing too much. You know what I'm saying? Or, we could do that, but I don't want to do that because if I do that, then there's a risk that I might not make it. I might die. You know what I'm saying? We're all aware of our mortality, but we use it to live in this prison box, circulated with fear. This whole idea of fear. Fear is not a bad thing once you understand the purpose of it. Fear is one of the things that really pushes you to live beyond your limits, the limits that you place upon yourself. Not that you have those actual limits, but the limits you place upon yourself. You know what I'm saying? But to live in fear is to constrict you from living. You know what I mean? When you concentrate too much on the fear of dying, that you really forget to live. And there's so much of life to actually live for. So when you take the time to realize just how the end of it doesn't matter as much, you start to really live in the moments, which is what everyone tries to tell you. These moments are moments that you don't get back. And if you don't take advantage of them, you miss out on them. Key moments in life in which you really get to live. Show just how wonderful life is by living. But don't, because of your fear of dying too soon, dying without doing this, dying without having accomplished that, dying because you took that risk and you know you shouldn't have took it because it was too risky, whatever. To live in fear is to not live at all. You cannot live life not living at all, because that's not the point. The whole point of living is to not live in fear. It's for you to understand what fear is. For you to understand it's only so much you can fear, because there is nothing really to fear, because at some point the same result is going to happen. At some point your life will end. But since we all know that, don't dwell on the fact that it's going to end. Dwell on the fact of how much you have to live for, how much you have to live with, how much you have to live to see, to do, because it's all expected for you. Living in fear is not living at all. You don't want to not live at all. You have too much life in front of you and ahead of you to not live it. Live life to the absolute fullest, to the max. And the only way to do that is to release yourself from the comfort zone, from the protection cloak that you wear for fear of dying. Because dying at some point is going to happen. At some point it's going to happen. But you cannot live with that mentality to where you're so constricted that you forget that you actually have a life to live. You understand? Don't live in fear. There is nothing really to fear. The things that we make matter in this life don't really matter as much. All the expensive cars and clothes, the wanting popularity, the wanting to be known for this and all this stuff is superficial. All of it is superficial. The only thing that matters is what do you want and how do you live your life? Did you live your life restricted by letting fear overcome every part of your being to where you did not live life to the fullest? You restricted yourself because you were afraid. And if you lived too much, it would increase time for you to die, which is really silly. There is no increasing time for you to die. When it's time, it's time. Time is constant. It does not fast forward, does not rewind, it does not stop, especially for you. You do what you're supposed to do, and that's just live. But do yourself a favor and do not live in fear. Because once fear overcomes you, you will no longer be living. As some people say, you'll just be existing. You'll be waiting to die. And that's not living at all. Got it? So don't live in fear. Don't live in fear. Just live. And live it fully to the max. Got it? Once again, it's Motivation Monday. Go be dope.